All right, guys, I'm back. Any questions?
Uh, yeah. I
How
got a
do I
question
get?
about the.
Hold
Yeah,
on,
sorry.
Tina. How do I get rich? Make a lot of money. Okay, next question.
You said about this portfolio, right? This will be at the end of the talk. Oh,
Yeah, go for it. If you want me to look at it, just go ahead and share it
okay.
in the.
Right now I'm just working on my page, so I only got like a art station and my old. I don't know if this is good enough.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, there's in chat. There's a lot of things from the year ago.
No, this is cool. Yeah, I can see that you got some skills in terms of painting, like a lot of photos, a lot of fan art. It's not entirely bad. You just need more stuff like this. You
Okay.
need like more concept.
Mm-hmm.
So more stuff like this. Well, you don't necessarily need more stuff like that one, but things that you actually like, you just need more of them, and you have to have a lot of them in your
Mm-hmm.
portfolio. It has to be clear to me like what kind of artist you want, because I think a lot of these ones earlier are just like studies and practices, which is really cool to have. But it's not essential.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this is all right. But it's like you just need to stay focused. Like what is it that you want to do? What kind of artwork do you want to have? And just have a lot of that in your portfolio. You
Mm-hmm.
know, because right now it's just all over the place.
Okay.
Yeah, you got like some stuff that's more like environment, then you have like portraits, and then you have characters, then you have illustrations, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Stay a little bit more focused. It will help you out.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, think about like any of the artists that you really admire. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, this is a good one. This guy, I already know this guy. Let's go look at his site. I mean, he just pretty much only does this kind of
This
character
is
designs, and it's pretty good.
great, great.
Yeah. Um, let's look at this one. I suspect that there's going to be a lot of environments. Yeah, mostly environments, like 75%, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, pretty much just characters, right? Especially towards the end, female characters.
Mm-hmm.
Um, right, there is a sense of consistency, is what I'm trying to say. Okay,
Okay.
and you just need to have that. And obviously, if you look at my own work,
Mm-hmm.
it's very clear. I'm a character dude. I have very bizarre characters, and every once in a while I have like a nice looking character. Every
Mm-hmm.
once in a while I do ZBrush, right? And sometimes I just paint, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm.
But I'm like
Yeah,
pretty much a character guy all the time.
yeah. I was doing like a lot of things because I needed like a job. So I was like doing the illustration, the enviro,
Yep,
and
totally. I get it. So did you get jobs that you liked?
I get a job in Warsaw on the mobile games, but I was working on the environment.
Yeah.
And just drop out that work because it was so boring and
Yeah, but you got the
yeah,
job though, right?
yeah.
So you see the problem?
Mm,
Yeah, just getting a job doesn't mean you're going to be happy or have fun. Okay?
yeah,
Because if you
that's
just want to
true.
get a job, I have some advice. You can go make more money as a plumber.
Yeah.
You see the point? Like, it's not just about the job, okay? Like, your schools will teach you that it's about getting the job. You need to have a diverse portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm telling you, that's a bunch of bullshit. What you really need is a career. You need a vocation, a vocational job, something that is not just a job, something that is something you enjoy. For instance, I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing that.
Yeah.
I'm art directing a game. It's sci-fi and monsters, so I love it, right? And I'm
Mm-hmm.
art directing, which means I don't have to necessarily paint the whole time. I can just talk to people. And then secondly, and probably the more important job that I do is teaching. In fact, if this other job falls through, I don't need it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can just teach. I can make a living and a very good living just teaching. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the point I'm trying to make is that um, you got to find what you like to do and then just try to get better at that. Like if you want
Yeah.
to be a character designer on Overwatch, for instance, then you got to have much better character designs, and you're gonna have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of them.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, absolutely, it's true. But it's not too late, right? You're still young. Even if you weren't, doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just get going.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Hope that helps you out.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Thank you.
just trust that trust that you want to do the kinds of things. You want to focus a lot of your time and effort on things that you actually care about. Don't don't be guided by what other people tell you should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of these people don't even know what the fuck they're talking about. They're not even doing what they want to do. And this is including other professionals.
Mm.
I have friends now who are like rethinking this whole concept art stuff. You
Mm.
know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I'm just like, yeah, been there, done that. You know, teaching too is not necessarily tied down to only concept art for me. You know, like I like teaching in general. So I've thought about like just going to high schools and try to help people out there in some way. Basically go around the country or just the state, um, educating people in low income communities and giving them a way out.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is what's really affecting America, not terrorist attacks. And so I'm done just sitting around doing nothing about it. I'm going to do some stuff. But see, all my choices I've ever made have been clearly driven by what I believe in. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
And I've been doing okay for myself. I've made a misstep here and there. That's definitely a fact. But I stay accountable for my mistakes. This is what pisses me off about our current president. It's not so much that he's made mistakes; it's that he doesn't think he has. That's really dangerous.
Mm.
And you should have the same kind of thing. Like maybe you made a mistake with your career, right? You didn't think it through,
Mm-hmm.
but it's okay. You're still alive. No one died. You know,
Yeah.
just get back on track.
Okay, I will try. I will. Oh.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it just takes time. Everything takes time.
Mm-hmm.
And just manage your time with Overwatch so you don't play like every 5 hours in a row.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, because you're not going to get there any faster. I forgot what it's called. There's a term for this where it's like the time you spend working on the time you spend working on playing video games or something else,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like okay, here's a way of thinking about it. I forget the term for it, but there's definitely a term and name for this. But basically, it's like if you are if you are playing 3 hours of video games, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, you're basically spending time and money on that, even if you don't
Yeah.
think you are.
Mhm.
For instance, those 3 hours could be devoted to painting to further your career, or it could be working. You could have went and actually got a job and make $10 an hour. So perhaps those 3 hours of your time was either a step in or a step that keeps you static,
Mhm.
and then the second the point of oh my dog's barking like crazy. Hold on. I had to yell at him. And the second point is that yeah, you're not moving through your career, and you could have just worked a job during those 3 hours, and so perhaps playing those 3 hours of video games cost you $30.
Okay.
You see that what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So you have to ask yourself, is that okay? Like, is it okay that I spent money or resources playing these video games? Because if you don't see that there's a resource being expended, then you'll just keep playing you know, until you
Yeah.
feel guilty with yourself. Because subconsciously, that's what's happened, right? So that's kind of my point to you.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you're got good stuff, and you have really a good head start. I would highly recommend you just keep painting. Perhaps the real problem is not so much your ability to get good, it's your impatience.
Mm.
So just be patient. It takes time.
Yeah. I think this is my like main how it's called main wrong side. I don't know. Uh, the impatience.
Yeah,
Yeah. I hate
most people
painting. Yeah.
most people have it. Don't feel
Mhm.
too bad.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I hope that helps you out with the portfolio review.
Yeah. Definitely. Thank you again.
Yeah, dude, totally. Does anyone else have any questions? Yeah, that painting that I was just looking at, I was showing it to a student last night, and I was just like, dude, nibble brush is good. I forgot all about nibble brush, but I thought about him because I was trying to help the student understand that there's like some really good stylized painters out there, and nibble brush is one of those people. And it made me want to do a little bit more stylized painting at a very high quality. Oh, dude, it's crazy. You gotta zoom in to get such accurate lines. I'm not used to it. But if I want to get on that nibbled brush level, no questions? Y'all have the answers to the universe? No, I don't have a favorite artist. I like too many artists. I have hundreds of artists that I admire. I will say that I have a favorite, um, like one artist that if I had to choose, there is one artist that I could say was my favorite. If I really had to sit down and choose one person, but like I said, it's misleading. That's why I don't normally um, mention it. Oh, what the? Gotta get rid of that. And it's what the? Linedeck. Linedecker is probably my favorite. If I had to really choose one, because I was looking at his stuff the most out of all the artists. Linedecker, but he's not the only one. I have plenty of people that I really admire. He just happens to be the one that I can truly say was a real influence to me. Jeremy Geddes, Phil Hale, these guys, Braun, had a lot to do with my growth as well. So it's really hard to just say one person. Any other questions? Yeah, like I got inspired by the nibble brushes or nibble pencils thing, so I'm like really gonna do this for a little bit. Started this last night. Figured I want to keep painting on it. Wait, hold on. Get that chat. What is your favorite time? What is your all-time favorite video game? Um, right now I think it's uh the Portal franchise. It's not just the one game, it's like the whole franchise. I like Portal. It's really good. Do you guys have any any art related questions? You guys, I know it kind of gets a little harder towards the end of the class because I've talked a lot and I've given a lot of insight. So I get it. So no pressure. So you can definitely keep asking those types of questions. Let me ask you guys a question. What are some of you guys going to do after the class during the weekend? The longest journey? That sounds like a game that I'd like. Party? Did you not hear anything I said to you, Michael? I'm just kidding. Old class reunion. Talk about that a little bit, Tina. I want to actually hear about that.
Well, yeah, we had a we haven't seen like I haven't had a class reunion like since 4 years or 5 years. That's when I finished school. So yeah, and now we're doing that.
Oh wow.
And yeah, we managed that through Facebook. So yeah, I'm kind of um, looking forward to it. It's like really interesting what the guys are all doing now. So yeah,
That is
it's
kind
cool.
of interesting. I haven't
Uh,
gone to a class reunion.
yeah, it's funny to see like some people are just stuck in the same place. We went to school, and I don't know why, but yeah.
People are afraid of change, man. Change is hard.
Yeah, I know.
It's really what it is. Oh,
Uh,
what the? Getting some tips?
oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. It's interesting. Yeah, I had a school reunion. Like there was one I was supposed to potentially go to. Like I think was it like 3 years ago? 4 years ago. Because we were 28 at the time, and so it was like 10 years after. But I didn't graduate with a lot of these people, so it's kind of be bizarre. Because I like, and a lot of these people actually I'm still great friends with, so it's also unnecessary. I still talk to a lot of these people because I'm really close friends. Like I said, I came from a small town. That small town breeds strong community generally,
That's cool.
and so I still know these people. And yeah, but they're also like yes, just stuck, just doing nothing. This is why I feel for the Trump voters. Actually, more and more, I'm very sympathetic to their undying support for this guy, but they're wrong. They're just wrong. and it's unfortunate. Yeah,
Yeah.
but you know, family or class reunions should be a time where you can just catch up. It could be, yeah, like you said, people just kind of judge each other. You should demonstrate some
Yeah.
compassion. You should see if you can convince people to pursue a little bit more in their life. But that's also respect. Like there's a really good motivational speaker who makes a comment about this where he says, a guy who works 9 to 5 at a very basic job, making a basic living, wages, has a beautiful family, goes golfing on the weekends with his best friends, you know, um, day in and day out, has a very similar lifestyle, doesn't do too much, and is completely happy with his life and completely content. I'm jealous of that guy, you know?
Yeah, that you
And
can be happy with that.
yeah, that he does not
Yeah,
complain.
I totally understand that.
Because if you think about it, like the idea of like, well, you got to do more, you got to do more, and once you've done more, you're like, well, I got to do more than that, and that's kind of what happened to me. And
Yeah.
from my own experience, I can tell you, like, it doesn't breed more happiness. It actually makes things worse. So I realized, and after listening to this motivational speaker and then just thinking about what he said, and like a lot of like Zen masters too have like all these beautiful philosophies of just inner peace. Yeah, I've decided to switch my goals to be a little bit more humble, right? Which a more simpler life is something that I'm aiming towards. And
I think people. Oh, sorry.
yeah, and so I think like a lot of times when people see other people don't do much, like in the case of some of your friends, yeah, it's easy to kind of just sit there and perhaps like put them in a bucket of like, why aren't they leaving? Like, don't they understand? There's more out there. Um, I usually I had that same standpoint, but now I've changed it. So now it's more like, well, if they have nothing to complain about, then I have nothing to say. You understand? Like if they don't say anything, like if you go and talk to these guys, they're like, yeah, this sucks and that sucks, and the government, the Earth is flat. Like a lot of my friends that still live in this short, small town, then I intervene
Wow.
because then I'm just like, look, bro, like you can leave. Like I left, you know. But I have friends out there that are completely happy. They're just like happy with their simple lives, and I don't say shit to them because all I care about with my close friends is for them to be actually genuinely happy, you know. And so I'm trying to give you this insight since you're gonna go, right? So if you don't hear anyone complain about anything, don't bring up anything. Just leave it alone. But if you hear people complain and start pointing fingers to why the world sucks and why everything around them sucks, then it might be a good opportunity to pull out a mirror and have them look at themselves. Have their own reflection on their decisions, right? Because
Yeah.
that's something that I mentioned actually in the evening class too. Actually, I was like, you're allowed to complain, but I don't like people who keep complaining. You know, because if you keep complaining and do nothing, then you're really just annoying, right? But if you don't complain, then that means you're happy. You're grateful for the life that you have. But if you're complaining and you're not happy with your situation, then do something about it. I think it's spawned because one of the students asked, like, what do you do if you work at a job where you're underappreciated? I think that's where it started. And I told him I just leave. And that's where I brought up the point of, you know, I didn't like it, so I left. It's actually not as complicated as people might think. It's like if you don't like something, do something about it. That's all. But a lot of people just don't want to do something about it. They want something else to happen, right? And I think that's a lot of what's happening here. It's like I think a lot of people think that this president's going to make the world a better place and make their lives better, and I'm just completely dumbfounded by this logic. How's a guy who has a silver spoon in his mouth knows what's wrong with the common people? He doesn't. He's never lived or worked in a day of his life. You know what I mean? He doesn't know what the working class wants and needs. They made a terrible, terrible mistake. And so, yeah, like I feel this way about a lot of people now. Like, so I talk to some people and I can tell like they're like they're just really trying to like impress others or themselves with like what they've done. And I try to remind them it's okay. I'm still your friend. You don't have to demonstrate to me why you're awesome. I already think you're awesome. You know? And this is like a lot of people that are stuck in this small town that I live in. Like I love these people and I always try to remind them they're fine. It's funny, whenever I hang out with them, they're like super motivated to, like, oh man, I'm gonna get into this stuff. And I see them do it, and like they're like really into it, and then it starts to die down. Because they're stuck in a shitty little town where everybody's so negative all the time. You know, it's just the environment's not conducive um, to growth. It's the same problem that rehabs have, right? Rehabs have this problem of they fix people, but then when people leave, they revert back to their bad habits. And it's not because these people don't have the strong will or these people are necessarily just terrible and they'll never figure it out. It's as simple as they're going back to the environment which made them do drugs in the first place. You know, it's you have to change their environment too. You can't just like let them leave for a weekend and then come back and then all of a sudden all things are fixed. It's like the Biggest Loser, like the TV show in America where people like go for like like a half a year to this camp of like personal trainers and equipment and nutritionists, like training them and becoming the best they can possibly be in terms of health. And it works. They like lose hundreds of pounds, right? But when they go back home, you know, it's not as simple as just like you go there and you're fixed, right? You got to teach people how to adapt to their original environment or encourage them to find a new one if they can. It's not easy, but it's definitely recommended. And so I encourage everybody like to give that kind of insight to others. Yeah, because I don't live in Barstow anymore. I live in Irvine, California, which is just like a super rich city. Everyone here is like very nice. Um, the parks and um, the parks and stuff are really nice. You know, it's just I don't know. It's just something that I have a different point of view these days on. I'm not as judgmental as I once was. Empathy, super powerful. Because you came from the same place, so you should understand, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how to explain it. There are some people who are just also stuck with their head, not. Yeah. I don't know.
Like elaborate.
Um, hmm, yeah, I think, yeah, they are really happy, like you said, with who they are, but it's just, yeah. I don't really have something in common with them, and then it's hard even
Oh yeah.
to
You
talk
don't
with
have
them.
to agree with them. I'm just saying empathy. Empathy is putting yourself in their shoes. Right? And like a lot of my friends who live in Barstow are just they're very stubborn. I hear you what you're saying, but I only I only intervene if they demonstrate some sort of level of disconnection. That's the only time I really. Otherwise, I usually just hang out and we have fun. We drink and party. You know.
Yeah, sure.
I remember on my one of my birthdays, we went to Vegas and like it was a great time. We were having so much fun. We were singing and rapping and doing all this fun stuff. It was hilarious. And then when we finally arrived, we were partying and stuff. And then eventually, like these two of my friends are just started like arguing with each other. That's something really stupid. And I was just like, what is going on here? And then it just started to show like, their happy faces started to diminish as time went on, you know? And then that's when I started saying, you guys need to get your act together because this is bad, you know?
Yeah.
If that would have never happened, it would have been a great trip. We would have had fun. Nobody would have argued. We would have just had a blast. They were like arguing about something that was so stupid. And then I remember one of my friends who lives in Vegas. We ran into him. We were hanging out, and he had all these ideas of conspiracy theories and stuff like that. And
Oh,
I was just talking to him about it. And at the end of the conversation, he's like, "Yeah, I don't know why I thought about all this stuff. Why I really believe this." He's like, "You really convinced me to think differently about that." And I think he was open to the idea because he's already left a small town. He already is a man of change, right? And he's probably retained a lot of these small town mentalities. And after I talked to him about it, and I basically demonstrated to him, I was like, how come the government is so good at hiding stupid shit like this, right? But yet, you know, yet we couldn't stop like this or that, you know? It's like if the government's so smart, then how do we know about all this bullshit? It's like there's like a very clear logical fallacies, you know. And I was just explaining, it's like, look, man, the government is not as smart as you think it is. Um, and not to say that there's not smart people there who are trying to do, you know, corrupt things. I'm just saying it's not at the level that people. There's a term for this too, which is like connecting dots to things that make no sense. It's like the Illuminati type of shit, right? There's actually a term for this, and I need to memorize it, so I can bring it up more often in these debates. But it's like, you could do this with everything. Like you can somehow relate anything and everything to something else, you know, if you really tried. But it doesn't mean that it's true. Um, like for instance, there was like the whole Kevin Bacon, like how Kevin Bacon's attached to every person in Hollywood, right? There was like this whole thing like who's related to Kevin Bacon, and you just type in Kevin Bacon and someone else's name, and it will just like tell you how they're connected. It's the same thing. It's like it doesn't really mean shit. Um, for instance, like some little girl was like Barack Obama is actually an ancestor of George Washington in some sense, or has an ancestry with George Washington. You know, it's just she's not wrong, but it doesn't mean anything. Okay, it sends a really good resound message about like how we're more connected, which is great. But it's like the same thing. It's just like so, you know, scientists don't rely on this type of method because it's not practical. What scientists rely is on predictable um, evidence or a predictable type of data, like data that helps them predict things, because that allows them to put rockets into space and robots on different planets. They also help them invent new diseases, cure diseases, or invent and cure diseases. I mean, like they basically find recipes to save people's lives. They discover new surgeries, you know, procedures that will allow them to predict the next step. And I just demonstrated this to him, and he was just like, "Yeah, that makes a lot more sense." I don't know why I thought about all this crazy shit. And I was like, it's because you're just talking with people that are also believe it, you know. So it's hard to think differently. Yeah, it was good. But then my other friends, they're just like, "Nah, conspiracies, bro. I'm not convinced." I'm like, it's it's really um, it's not it's not a good practice to just try to live in a world of conspiracy. Um, so for instance, me and my wife have these talks about aliens. And I remember one time, and she doesn't listen to me as much as I'd like her to, which is probably why I married her. Because if she just listened to everything I said, then I wouldn't have any contrast, right? But she asked me one time because we watched like an alien movie, and she's like, "Do you believe in aliens?" Like, and I was like, "Do I believe there's like life in this universe, like out in space?" And she's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Yeah, of course I do." There's like, I mean, logically speaking, there's just the number, just the math alone would make it very improbable that there is no aliens floating around in space somewhere, right? And I told her, in fact, I think that life is actually pretty prominent in space. I think it's everywhere. Like, I really believe that when we start to land on Mars, we'll find some life. Now, I don't imagine like little aliens, that like brains and intelligent life. I'm talking about like just microbial, like really small life that can live in deep space in vacuums in really intense environments. There's already examples of them on our own planet, right? There's creatures and animals that live in like sulfuric at like areas on our own planet. So there's no reason to deny that there could be the same types of life living elsewhere, right? So yeah, I believe that they could be there, and it might not be a lot, but definitely there. And I believe they're on multiple moons and stuff. But intelligent life, very unlikely that they're in our own solar system. I think we're the only intelligent life living up on our planet. And my wife was just like, he's like, well, I think they're already here. And I'm like, what? No. Why would they already be here? And she's like, I don't know. The government's hiding it. I was like, why would the government hide aliens? I'm like, sweetheart, like, why? What's the reason? And then I try to explain to her, it's like, look, you know, it's very difficult to travel through space. It's very, very hard. And not only is it hard, it's very expensive. And I don't mean expensive like money expensive. I mean energy expensive. I was like, there's a star system that's close to us. It's about 4.5 light years away, Alpha Centauri. It takes 4.5 years for light to get there. And light, is, as we know it, is the fastest thing in the universe and holds the speed limit of the universe. That is the fastest that anything can go, according to the science we have today. You know? And I was like, so even if we can create a craft that can go at the top speed, right? It would still take us thousands of years to reach different stars every time, you know? Even the closest star system would take us at least 4 years to get to. And just because we get there doesn't mean there's going to be intelligent life there either. Okay? And I said, and to be able to go at that speed would require such intense energy. Like, it just would, we would be noticing this. There would be a phenomenon in space all the time. We would be seeing this type of crazy bullshit. Okay? It would be intense. And but I said to her, I was like, but I don't believe that there isn't space traveling aliens right now. I believe there is. I believe there's a lot of them. I'm sure. There is that's going to be very rare. That is truly going to be rare. Space traveling aliens, and it's going to be even rarer for them to intercollide with each other. Not to say that it doesn't happen. It's going to be very rare, and it's because of just the science as we know it now. Just demonstrates that. That's what makes me predict that this is the case. And you can just look at what other scientists agree on as well. And it just makes sense on a logical level, right? And I explained to her, it's like, look, also, if there was a space traveling species, I bet they would be microscopic because it's very cheap to travel at a very small scale. Imagine just being so small that you can just jump onto a photon and just ride it. you know, It'd be cheaper to be microscopic because a lot of the reasons why space travel is so difficult right now is because it's very hard for us to survive in space. That's why it's very difficult. It's not because we can't go to Mars. It's because how long will our astronauts survive just being in space for that long? You know? And I explained this to my wife, and she's like, "No, I still think they're here." I'm like, "All right, agree to disagree." So this is someone that I love dearly, and I still kind of put up with her stubbornness. But it was a fun conversation, regardless. I had with her, and I'm trying to say is, my wife is it's not going to make or break our relationship because she believes that aliens are running around. She also thinks there's ghosts, which I think is cute. But yeah, I mean, like getting to kind of this whole uh, high school reunion thing that you're going through. Yeah, like a lot of people that don't leave, they're just not exposed to a lot of this stuff. One of my close friends who I got out of my town, like he didn't know what Dropbox was. He didn't know you can even sync files. Like he didn't know what that even meant. You know? I mean, you laugh, but that's the thing. Like, how do you know? How did you know what sinking was? You know? It's because you were exposed to
Yeah.
it. That's the real difference. It's not because these people aren't um, wise to it. It's just because what's the relevance to them to it, or what's the relevance for them to learn it? There's no reason. You know? Yeah, where someone like me is like almost I can't imagine not having it, right? Because I guess my whole work is inspired by or my whole educational platform is like uses tools like this all the time. And even before then, like when I was just putting everything on my hard drive, and I started finding out that you can do cloud storage through stuff like Dropbox, I was like, yeah, that's perfect solution. I remember even thinking that when Dropbox was coming out, I was like, oh, amazing, of course, you know. But that's because I was always on the internet looking for something like this, like solutions of this nature, because it was relevant to my life and lifestyle. And so keep that in mind. Try to inspire people. I dare you. And let me know how it goes. Any other questions, y'all?
Yeah, this one short question. Can you show us your settings for the smudge tool? Smudge tool?
Yeah. It's a soft brush, like an
Mm-hmm.
airbrush. Yeah, excuse me. It's got a scatter 30%, pen pressure 1 and 0% and off. It's pretty much there. Transfer is on. Pen pressure is on for strength, and it's at 0 and 0. And then the strength itself is down at 20%. That's pretty much it. And smoothing is on, but I think that's default on already.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I had a question about like applying color. Like, how do you usually go about applying color? Like, do you use like multiply, overlay, stuff
I
like
use
those kinds of
color.
things?
Yeah, there's a video actually on it, and
Oh,
yeah, I just do color
okay.
layer, and then once I get the color layer going, um, what I usually do, yeah, once I get the color layer going, what I usually do is I will paint it as far as I can until eventually I decide, you know, I need to go in there manually and add some color. But yeah, I just stay with the color layer. The thing is that color works best on really established values, and also you have to understand the kind of colors you can get with the values that you already have. For instance, the lighter values will only have taken on lighter colors like yellow, light orange, light blue, stuff like this. So if you're attentive to that, you can kind of pull off pretty easily some nice color. So for instance, this is like at this value range. So if I want to get into like a flesh tone, like a peach, I could totally do that. I just need to start with a very desaturated reddish orange to get that color. You see? But it's because the
Okay.
values are pretty good. It's usually the values that's what screws with people up. People think, well, how do you get
Right.
color in there? By putting color in there. And then it's like, oh, well, why does yours look better than mine? Well, most likely because my values are much stronger. You understand?
Yeah, of course. Like, obviously, the better your values, the easier it's gonna be to like put in the color, right?
Yep. And so the moral of the story is then get better with your values. Don't worry so
Yeah,
much about color. Color will come as you practice and practice. You'll get better with your colors.
for sure.
Yeah. like to the point where you can cut color, like you can start with color. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And then what we can do is desaturate this a little bit and add a little bit of blue. And then he's wearing a dark shirt, so something like dark blues or dark reds would work fine. Let's do dark red. Yeah, I like this actually. I like kind of like a little bit of desaturation. And then we'll give him dark blue eyes. We'll paint it all the way to the edge, but I'm going to go ahead and just start to paint some desaturation in there. And then just got to get in here and clean up. In grade school, you learn how to color in between the lines. That's where that skill finally comes into fruition. That's what all that training was building up to, was this moment. To paint in between the lines.
I also didn't even realize that you use this smudge tool until someone had mentioned it just now.
Yeah, I use it mostly just to soften edges.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Looks like I started in color the whole time, right? But this is just the color layer.
Oh yeah, nice.
And here's the fun thing, is that you can change to alien now. Actually, I like this color scheme better. And then you can mask it, and then you can erase. Yeah, you
How do
can
you actually pick a color? Because the layer is on color, but it's like a different color when you're painting.
say it again.
When the layer is on color, it actually is another color than the color you were painting with, right? Like a little bit different because of the values.
No, it's the same color.
Okay, so you can pick the color and draw with it, and it's the same.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, color layer only affects the color and saturation. So when you eyedrop this, it will be the same color. Let me demonstrate. So this is on color layer. So I'm picking this color right here. And I'm going to go ahead and paint it all the way down. Right? You see that?
Okay. Yeah.
And then I pick the same color. You know, it's pretty much the same color. You see that?
Okay.
And if I
Yeah.
pick
Okay.
it
Then I
like
was
here,
misinformed about.
yeah. And then the really best way you can see it is just turning it off. And like I said, it affects color and saturation. So you can see it's still the same color. You
Yeah.
understand? Now, if you only want it, you don't want it to affect saturation at all, then you make it a hue. Now it's only color. It is literally the only thing that's affected. You understand?
No, not really.
So there's three
So
things.
what's not affecting?
There's three things that make a color. There's hue,
Mm.
saturation, and brightness. If you didn't know that before, now you do. There's
Okay, because I'm
there.
German, I don't really understand right now what's you, but I'm
So like,
translating it.
so I'll just show you. But there's HSB sliders. That's what those were affecting. So
Who is the font? Okay.
wait, hold on. Let's go back to this. Let's talk about this for a second. So saturation. So saturation would be basically this is red and this is desaturated red. Get that?
Sure.
Do you understand this? This one's more saturated on the right. This one's desaturated. Desaturation means it's more gray. Okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. And then that's one. That's one thing that's affected. And then there's brightness, right? So this is, this is a bright red versus a dark red. You understand?
Yeah.
So far, so good.
Yeah.
And then hue is that it's red and this is blue.
Okay, okay.
You get it? But
Yeah.
they can both be the same saturation, right? Like I don't think these are actually, but let's find out. Yeah, they're pretty close. They're pretty close in terms of value, and they're pretty close in terms of saturation. Well, actually, let's find out. Yeah, they're pretty close in saturation too. Okay?
Yeah.
So what color layer does is it affects like the actual color layer, yeah? The actual color layer affects saturation and hue. It does not affect brightness. That's why when I'm painting this, you'll notice, so these are my color layers, right? If I turn these off, do you see any change in the value?
No.
Because of the fact that color does not affect brightness. You understand?
Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. And so if you don't want your saturation, I use color because I want my saturation to be affected as well. But if you don't want your saturation to be affected, like I don't want this to be any more saturated or I don't want this to, but I want to change the color of it or rather the hue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to change the brightness of it. I want this to stay as bright as it can be. So look at the slider here. Look at my color slider, right? What the? There's a robot in your house. So look at this. Look at the slider. See how I'm on the blue? And I'm going to pick a very gray blue. You see that? You see how gray this is?
Mm.
And this layer's on hue. Look what happens.
Okay.
Why? Why is it still very saturated? It's because hue only affects color. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
It only affects like whether it's blue or whether it's red. It doesn't factor in if it's a bright, like a really saturated blue, or if it's like a, because this is the blue that I picked to make this blue look the way it did. You see that?
Yeah.
And these are not the same, not even close, right? This is way more saturated. You
Mm.
understand? Because
Yeah.
a hue layer does not affect the saturation or the brightness. So even though there's a sharp line there now, when you turn the color layer to turn off all the color, there's no line. We don't see it there because it doesn't affect the brightness either. Is this all making sense now? So the
Yeah.
reason why I don't, like, you'll see a lot of people who start out will use an overlay layer to put the colors in. And the reason why you should be very cautious of this is because overlay layers affect everything. They affect the brightness. They affect the saturation. You understand?
Yeah.
They affect the values. So you can see why overlay layers are not useful to adding color to something that you spent all your time making the values very strong. But what's the most valuable tools would be hue, saturation, and color. But I use color because it's just a shortcut. Basically, it's hue and saturation together. Make sense?
Yeah.
But if you really want to be like a surgeon, right? And just like, I don't want to affect the color here. I want to affect the saturation, you know? Like I feel like this is too saturated, but I want it to stay the same color or hue. Look, I'm picking a bright, like a super bright blue. Okay? Look what happens. This color is blue. But then when I put on
That
saturation,
makes sense.
it makes it more saturated because it's ignoring the hue, right? It doesn't matter what hue I choose. I can choose this. I can choose this. You know, it's ignoring that.
Yeah.
It's paying attention to only the saturation. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Got it.
Yeah. So that's why I use color, and that's why like you see, there's some weird stuff going on right there. But if we turn this off to normal, this is what I was painting with. Okay, and then I put this on saturation, so that goes away. Okay, and it's the same thing. Like if I wanted to be desaturated, I could pick a desaturated blue, and it's going to desaturate this. Yeah. So if you want to have like absolute, like I said, like a surgical level of control while you're painting this stuff, yeah, just use hue and saturation layers to help you do stuff like this. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, hopefully that gives you some more insight on Photoshop.
Yeah, that was helpful.
The power
Thanks.
of Photoshop. Yeah, Photoshop's super powerful. People don't take advantage of it. They just think, just paint. Of course, painting and painting alone is really powerful, but you should go beyond that because you can accomplish way more. But yeah, I choose color layer because you can just pick the color, and it's pretty much the color that I want. It's pretty consistent. Oh, I need to make a new color layer.
Do you sometimes change the brush mode?
Yeah, it all depends on what I'm doing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all relevant to what I'm doing at that moment.
His eyes look very alien-like.
Yeah, and so here's
You
a good
could,
here's a good opportunity for like an overlay layer if I want to bring brightness. So like I can make an overlay layer, and if I want his eyes to be a little bit more brighter, then I pick a brighter blue. And it's going to make it a little bit more bright. And if I go here, if I want this to be a little bit more richer too, I can do that. But you have to understand that when you're doing this, you're affecting the values. Okay?
yeah.
You know, like if I do this pretty intensely, it's going to get pretty aggressive. So I have to be very cautious. I'm going to do it very lightly. A very broad stroke, just to increase the depth of this. Oh, I should have done this from afar. Let's try again. In fact, I'm going to do this on its own overlay layer. But usually I just paint the stuff in anyway. I don't really necessarily get this clinical with my, what you call it, with my layers. But I'm just trying to show you the power of layer management. And it's okay if I'm getting a little too extreme, because I can just turn it down now. And I'm just doing this mostly so it feels a little bit more subsurface scattery, you know?
Mhm.
Like his skin is a little see-through. Brighten that little helmet of his. Darken his little coat. All using the overlay layer. And all of this is just, oops. Yeah, all of this is not affecting my values too much. Now they are affecting it a little bit because of the overlay layer, right? But I was constantly aware of what I was doing. I knew I was just adding a little bit more depth, you know?
Yeah.
But at this point, I would do what I usually would do is flatten it again, you know, and just paint a little bit more by hand. If I was really trying to take this to a super finish. And start putting in colors manually that I believe need to be there. Yeah. That's how I go about adding color. It's not too much. It's not crazy. And here's the thing, man. You guys will go to your computers or you'll go to your Photoshop and it's like, all right, now I know how to color, and you start coloring and it's gonna look like trash. Um, and like I said, it's because of your values. It has nothing to do with your color choices. It could have something to do with your color choices. Let me retract that. But those are more superficial problems and very easy problems to fix. I like this alien feeling of a design. So this is what I usually do too. Sometimes I'll change the color, but I'll put this on hue, and then I'll change the color so it's only affecting the hue underneath. So my values are still strong. This is kind of cool. Like going back to the original color scheme that I had. Then just brighten it a little bit more. But anyway, hope this was helpful. One last question, y'all.
I think these guys in the comments were interested in your actions.
What?
They were interested in your actions.
Yeah, these are all superficial stuff. Don't worry about this kind of things. I wouldn't worry about them. Like these are just things I make that make it easier for me to make an overlay layer, color layer. I usually use only these first 7 or 8, you know? Um, and if you want to know how to make actions, you can just YouTube it. It's really actually very simple. It's not very complicated. You basically record what you're doing and then you hit stop on the record and then it, bam, action. And then what you can do is you just turn it onto a button mode so it looks like, so it's easier to manage. Yeah. Um, None of this stuff, like specifically like the action stuff, which is really interesting and you should definitely look into it and find what you find or find what you would use more often. But it's nothing worth focusing your time and effort on right now. It's more important just to become really good artists, okay, more than anything else. Because yeah, I was using them just a moment ago, but I mean, think about all the other times I wasn't using them, right? I usually am just painting more than I'm just using actions. The actions just save me time, like if I want to make more layers or something like this. Anyway, all right, guys, call this guy done. Um, Hope you guys learned a lot. Appreciate y'all. Have a good, rest of your career. Some of you guys might be coming back. The others of you who are, working on your own and trying to improve, engage in the Discord, talk with each other there, hang out with each other, try to inspire each other, motivate each other to keep working hard. The friendships you build over the time with people you meet online and people that you meet in person are going to help you in the future. So it's very valuable to just be kind to one another, to support one another. Because if you just think, well, I'm going to work really hard and just post my stuff out and get jobs, that's one way about going. That's one way of going about it. But one of the most valuable ways that I've discovered in my experience is just through pure friendships and connection to those around you. Yeah, if you focus a lot of your effort on just working hard and making good art, you're missing out on one of the larger aspects, which is socializing and making friends. We're social animals. We want to work with people that we like, so find time to make that happen. And with that, I'm gonna let you guys go. Peace out, friends. See you guys around the
Thanks for your time.
on the Discord. Yeah, I'm gonna probably start setting up workshops. I was supposed to do it a month ago, but I think I'm gonna do it tomorrow. Do a character workshop, and yeah, just paint and talk and do stuff that you guys enjoyed in the class, but only for like half an hour. And then try to do this at least once or twice a month, and make it like a big event and have people on the Discord join in and hang out, specifically people who are already there. And even though the Discord's open invitation, people can join. If you have friends you want to join the Discord, they're more than welcome to come in. Just reach out to one of the admins to help out. But the idea is that I want to build a really strong community of people to help each other and do workshops. And I want to maybe have other students do workshops for each other to help get that going, So hang out, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Laters, guys.
Thanks a lot, man.
Yeah, follow your heart, chase your dreams. Peace. Thank you for watching this video. I appreciate it. Please subscribe to watch more in the future. If you liked the video, I would appreciate a thumbs up. If you like this content, you can go to my website, robotpencil.net, where you can find mentorships, tutorials, and a Patreon to get more exclusive content. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys in my next videos.